Today's guest is living proof that building a thriving business doesn't have to mean burning out or selling your soul to the algorithm. Holly Marie Haynes is a business strategist, podcast host, and twin mom who built a seven-figure business working part-time hours without relying on social media. After 2 decades in corporate strategy, she gave herself 20 Mondays to replace her salary and did it. She now helps women entrepreneurs land consistent, high paying clients by creating sustainable systems, marketing strategies that fit their strengths, and business that actually support their lives. If you ever thought, I know I need to delegate, but it's just easier to do it myself, or I'm tired of posting with no payoff, this episode will feel like a breath of fresh air. Let's get into it. Hey there, I am Nada Salvatore, and you're listening to the Accidental CEO podcast. This is a space for high-performing entrepreneurs who have built real success, but still find themselves tangled in the day-to-day. If you're done being the engine of your business and ready for scale with clarity, trust, and ease, you're in the right place. Each week, I'll bring you sharp strategies, identity-level mindset shifts, and leadership tools to help you rise above the business and lead from alignment, not exhaustion. Because scaling isn't about doing more, it's about becoming more of who you're meant to be. Subscribe now and let's build a version of your business that finally supports you. You're not just winging it, you are leading it. But let's be honest, being the CEO and the everything else can get lonely, messy, and exhausting. That's why I created the Accidental CEO Collective, a free Facebook community for creative entrepreneurs who never planned to be the boss, but damn it, here we are. Inside, I go live every week to share the real stuff. Strategies that don't require a business degree, behind the scenes struggles, because you're not the only one, and wins that we actually celebrate, even the tiny ones. If you're a scrappy, smart, sometimes slightly burnout founder who is ready to lead with more clarity and less chaos, this is your room. We're building a business that works for us, not one that runs us into the ground. Come join us. Let's grow, mess up, pivot, and succeed together. Just search the Accidental CEO Collective on Facebook and join our group today. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Accidental CEO podcast. I'm your host, Nada Salvatore, and I have Holly Haynes here with me today. And we were just chatting on her podcast, talking about how we have a lot of friends in common and have been destined to cross paths eventually. So here we are today. Welcome, Holly.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I'm grateful that our paths have crossed, and I love this podcast. I love the name. And so, yeah, I'm honored to be here.
That's awesome. So tell us first where you are and a little bit about your business.
Yeah, so I'm in Columbus, Ohio. So we are in the Midwest. I've lived in Ohio my entire life. My business actually got started a little bit later in life. So I'm about to turn 47 by the time this airs. I started my business when I was 41. I have 22 years of corporate strategy background working for Fortune 500 companies. And I never in a million years thought I would have my own business. Like, entrepreneurship was not a word. Like, it wasn't a major or a degree in college. Like, it just wasn't talked about and wasn't a thing. So it's like shocking to me that this is my life right now. But how it started was I was actually getting my master's degree at Ohio State. If you guys are football fans, I know Florida and Ohio State are, but we like Florida. And I don't know if you've heard of Jenny from Jenny's Ice Cream. I don't know if Jenny's Ice Cream is a thing. It's like she's an amazing entrepreneur. You should go follow her. But she founded Jenny's Ice Cream, and it's like a very like different type of ice cream. It's like all the cool flavors, and she did it like 20 years ago before like everyone else was doing it. And so she had come to talk in our class, and I was like, okay, so we're going to learn about this ice cream company. But the whole time she was talking, it was about the impact that she wanted her company to make on the community. And if you follow her now, she has like 2 more companies and is like a huge part of like giving back. And she did it, like she followed through. And I just remember sitting there like, this is really interesting because like I can't keep doing what I'm doing. Like, I just had this moment of like, what am I doing in this like finance class? Like, this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so long story short, I ended up having twins and like kept working and eventually got to this point where I was like, I have to do something different. Like I can't keep doing what I'm doing for the next 10 years or 20 years. And so I just started mentoring younger women who were in the same career as I was and like really, really loved it and started doing certain like leadership circles, and the book Lean In had just come out. And so I was like really leaning into that. Fast forward to 2020 and I was like, well, I'm going to start a podcast because that's what you do, right? I'm going to call it Crush the Rush because I thought of the name in the shower, didn't really think much of it. And I just want to teach women who wants to be in business like how to get out of the cycle of being rushed all the time and actually, I know you talk a lot about like it's not really balance, but it's like prioritizing. Like I can have a career or a business and I can also have a family life and all these other things. So it kind of just started with this like ice cream story and the podcast. But the funny thing happened the day the podcast aired was the first case of COVID in the United States. And I joke that like I've only had a business in a pandemic or like an election crisis or financial, I don't even know. Like I'm just like, I don't know. What do you do? So it became this very real story of me building a business sort of like live on this podcast. And it hit. Like it just was, I think I was being very honest about how we were sort of navigating through things and sharing what we were doing as a business. We're like, I don't know, 600 episodes in now. So that's kind of how we got started. But I teach you how to grow and scale a business without relying on social media. Because when I started my business, I was working full time for the C suite and I couldn't be on social. So I had to figure out a different way.
That's amazing. So a few things there. One, Holly looks 25. So don't let it fool you. Second, love the name that you came up with, shower. I swear the most brilliant ideas come along when we're taking a shower. And to that point, I actually bought a pad that goes in my shower that I can write down some ideas when it comes up. So love that. And welcome to the accidental CEO tribe, right? Like a lot of us didn't really intend to end up where we are today, which is why I love the name of this podcast in my business because I feel like it's relatable to a lot of us. But even though you didn't plan, here we are, and you build a 7-figure business in part-time hours, which is amazing, and without relying on social media. So well, let's talk about mindset a little bit because I'm sure there was some of it. What mindset shifts had to happen for you to trust that less hustle could actually lead to more results?
Yeah, well, the word accidental is very key here because I had twins who were in kindergarten in the pandemic. So I don't know if you remember that time frame, but like it was crazy. And they say that kindergarten is like the most, important year of your life. And here we are like trying to teach them how to read on Zoom. And I was just like, this is so I didn't have the time. Like there was no time where like that I was just like I didn't want to do it. Like the time just didn't exist. And so I knew going into it, and I think maybe because I started later in life, that like if I was going to do this, I was going to do it in a way that worked for me and our family because I'm not doing this so I have a second job. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm doing it because I want it to feel good. I want it to be fun. I want to help people. If it brings in some extra money, great. But when I started, I didn't think that I was actually going to make that much money. So that probably was the biggest mindset shift of once we started to gain some traction, believing that like, oh, this actually can be something because I don't think I ever thought that. And it was actually my husband who, like, I think had to say, "Hey, Holly, like, I really think you should pay attention to this. Like, do you know what you just made last month from this side hustle?" And because I never thought of it that way. I was just like, "Oh, we'll just, have an extra vacation or something." Like, I wasn't in that mindset. And so it really was probably him that had to be like, "I think you should pay attention to this." So,
That's amazing. I think that speaks a lot to making sure that we have good people around us that can support us and sometimes even point out things that we're not seeing. I remember having a conversation with my husband because I came from corporate too. I was in healthcare before I did this. And, I have a doctorate degree and my path was set. I had zero intentions to starting a business myself and had no experience with that in my whole family, all that. So, I remember him telling me, like, you've never done anything where you didn't give 100% and it didn't go well. So why do you think this will be any different? Like, you are making more money than you're making in your, 9 to 5 job with a doctor degree. Like, what makes you think that this is not going to work? So, sometimes it's good to have those people that can remind us of everything we have accomplished and help our confidence boost.
Yeah, that's actually one of my mantras that I can't control the outcome, but I can control my actions. So, if I can show up when I'm supposed to show up and I can follow through with the things that I said I was gonna do, then, 99.9% of the time, it will work out. It might not work out the way that you thought that it would, but it will work out because you're taking the steps.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of just staying with it and, working that is just staying around. A lot of entrepreneurs just fail because they get to that hard phase and they're like, I'm out. They just don't hang around long enough. So you gave yourself 20 Mondays to make your business work. So why that timeline, and what advice would you give to founders who feel that pressure that they have to succeed fast, but they at the same time want to build something that lasts?
Well, I mean, 20 Mondays wasn't really fast. So my husband and I had joined a mastermind because I was like, okay, I know the business part, but the online piece is a little new to me. So I'm gonna, learn the best I can. And my husband and I actually went to a retreat together and we were listening to like all these people. And I think a lot of times we have people in our life that support us, but they're not privy to like the calls and the words and like the terminology and all the things. So they just hear like our side. And so at the time, he was listening to these speakers and he was like, why are you still working? Like that was his comment to me. And I was like, what do you mean? Why am I still working? And my husband stayed home with my girls. So for me to leave corporate was like a really big step because of, insurance and savings and 401k and all of that. Like this was not a small thing. I like looked at him, I was like, what do you mean? Why am I still working? Like, do I need to make a list for you? And he's like, let's make a list. And these are things that like I would tell my clients, but because it's me, like it's so much harder when it's yourself. And so we had this like whiteboard in my office, and we wrote down everything that we needed for me to leave my job and be able to be sustainable as a family for 1 year. So because the last thing I wanted to do was to leave my job and then January 15th be like, oh my god, I have to sell 17 things to like pay the mortgage. Like I did not want to live like that. So I was like, okay, what do we need to have in place so that if nothing happened for a year, like if I didn't bring in one piece of income, we would be fine. So we made this list and I like go on this mastermind call, like where you check in. And I was like, oh, I made this list of like, my retirement from corporate. And they're like, well, how long did you give yourself? And I was like, I don't know. It's just there. And they're like, oh, you need to set a deadline. Again, things that I would tell my clients, but because it's me, I'm like not following through. So we set, I don't know, it was like 20 weeks, whatever that is, which is a decent amount of time, 3 months, 4 months. And I was like, well, I'm just going to start working through the list. And we got through it in like 3.5 weeks. Like it was like, what are we going to do for insurance? How much do we need in our savings? And it's like, as soon as I like let go of almost like the pressure of like, okay, well, here's the list. Once we get through the list, then things will be in place. It happened so fast. And you were talking on my podcast about reading the book, The Upper Limit. And I feel like that list was like, it was the upper limit. And when I made the list easy and when I made it just like flow, it just went. And I've told this story before and people are like, wait, what? Like, how does that happen? I was like, I don't know how it happened, but I knew that I had the list and like we just let go of the expectation that it was going to be hard, I think. And then it just, we just kept working through it like step by step. Like, what do we do for insurance? How much do we need to have in our savings? Like, what's our plan when like your first day of not working in corporate? Like, what are you going to do? Do you have a team? Like all these things. And it flowed so much simpler when we just sort of like let that go.
Yeah, I think there's so much power into naming your fear, right? So being very clear, like, what is that I'm scared of? And then putting some time into, okay, what is the worst case scenario? And then what are the steps to prevent that? Right. So I did very similar thing. Like I saved a year's worth of expenses before I left. And it was like, well, if nothing goes right, if I fail miserably and I don't have one client for the whole year, which I know it's not going to happen, we can still pay all of our bills and continue to live the way we're living. So that is not even like I completely discounted my husband's money. Like that's even like if you're gone and I have to take care of everything, like we are going to be fine. And once you look at it and is very objective, again, you're kind of removing that emotional piece and being very objective. You're like, okay, like, yeah, this is, I can do this. Like, this is real. And that fear is gone because there's no more excuses. You've solved the problem, right? So it's time to take the next step. So I'm 100%, behind starting before you're ready, but also being mindful of like, making sure that you are making the right decision and looking at the pros and cons and taking your time to create a little bit of a safety net. I think that's very responsible, especially for people that have entire family that is dependent on them. So
Yeah, I mean, I was not making my corporate salary when I left, and so it was like, okay, what's the plan? And then I was like, if, obviously we did like quarterly check-ins, and okay, if it's not going well, like this is plan A, this is plan B. And so I think that just like took the stress off and actually made it feel exciting. Like, oh, we're going to do this and we have a plan in place. And there is pressure, but it's not, oh my gosh, I have to do this by tomorrow kind of pressure.
let's be honest, you didn't build this business to work 80 hours a week, chasing invoices and solving problems at midnight. But now you hit a wall. You've outgrown DIY and you're spinning your wheels trying to scale and stay sane. That's where one-on-one coaching with me comes in. This is not a cookie cutter program. It's tailored, strategic support designed specifically for founders like you, the ones who built something from nothing and are now carrying all the weight. We'll get clear on what's keeping you stuck, simplify your focus, and build a plan that gets results without burning you out. If you want a second brain and no BS sounding board, and someone who can help you make better, faster, smart decisions, this is for you. Head out to accidentalceo.co/coaching. That's accidentalceo.co/coaching. And let's work together to grow your business and take your life back. So you're a twin mom, retired your husband, you travel quarterly, and you still run a very thriving business. Talk to us a little bit about how you structure your time so you're not the bottleneck for your business and you're still wearing that CEO hat and being the visionary for your business, because that I believe is very important.
Yeah, well, I when I left corporate, I was like, we're going to make some rules to follow because again, I was like, I refuse to leave my job to sit in front of a computer all day. Like I repeat that to myself every morning. And so I went in of like I'm only gonna take calls Tuesday, like, I have so many rules. I'm only gonna take calls Tuesday through Thursday. We're gonna travel once a quarter, and travel doesn't have to be, like, crazy, extravagant, but we're not going to grandma's house. Like, we're gonna take advantage of the fact and my kids were a little bit younger, so it was easy. Like, we could take them out of school, and it wasn't, like, detrimental. And so I do break the rules. Like I'm not that rigid, but we sort of have these like boundaries in place of like, okay, like I want to be able to go to yoga class at 10 o'clock. So I really just like sat down and designed like, what does my dream week look like? And not dream week of I want to work in Hawaii kind of week, but like I want to be able to eat breakfast without working at the same time. And I want to be able to go on a walk because in corporate, like I didn't see daylight. And I want to be able to take a vacation and like things that I think would bring happiness to our family. So that was the first part. Like we sort of agreed on what these rules or boundaries or maybe like you talk a lot about mission and vision. Like, okay, what's our like family vision? And so then we sit down and we have a quarterly planning meeting, like my husband and I do. And now that I have a team, like the team is also involved in it. We'll obviously have like our family quarterly planning meeting first and we'll look at the calendar of like, okay, what's going on? Like who's got what? Like, do we want to take a trip? What do the girls have going on? Then we'll bring in the team and say, like, okay, these weeks are off limits, but this is our goal. Like, what's the best way to get there? And we sort of layer in our different like products and launches and things like that. And that's one of the things that I teach is like, how do you structure different products, different services, different launches around like what you want your actual day-to-day life to be. And so that's really our process. My husband and I go through it every single Sunday. We sit down and review it, and then just like sticking to it, I think is like these are these rules. Rules sounds rigid, like we do break them. But these boundaries are like why we started. And even the little things of, like, most of the time I don't have meetings on Fridays, like, when I do have meetings, I feel it because I've now gotten used to this schedule where I have some flexibility and I am able to do some more things, and so when I see my calendar start to, like, fill up, then I it's like a warning sign to me of I need to adjust.
Yeah, I appreciate you painting a very clear picture of what the life-led business look like. And we were talking earlier too about your schedule will reflect your priorities. So if you are not sure if you are in the right direction, I'll say take a look at your calendar. And if everything prioritize your business versus your life, that might be something to take a look at. If that's your goal. If your goal is to have that business that really supports you as a founder and supports your life, but everything in your calendar looks like business, is probably, there's a disconnect there. There's something that is not aligned. So
Yeah, it's interesting right now because so my girls are 11 and we got them Apple Watches because, well, technology and teenagers is a whole nother conversation. But I gave them access to our family Google Calendar so that they could start to learn like how to structure their time because now they have homework and they have sports. And so now on Sundays we actually all sit down. Like my husband's like, "Oh my gosh, what have you done, Holly?" And like we'll all sit down on the like on the calendar and they've got their planners and I have my planners and we're like, "Okay, on Sunday we're going to do this and on Tuesday we're going to do this." And so it's fun to see like little pieces of it like come to life for them even though they're not the ones obviously working in the business yet.
I love that. That's a great practice. So a lot of our listeners are on that like messy middle in their business where they're making money, but they're constantly like recalibrating or having to they find themselves micromanaging again and like, being in the weeds of everything. So what are some signs for you that it's time to just pause and rebuild that foundation of your business?
Yeah, well this is a great question because we just did this actually this year. So it's 2025, so our business is 5 years old. Some of the things that I built needed a little bit of a refresh because 2020 was very different. And then I think just the environment that we're in right now is very different, like with AI and all the things. And so I felt this pull last year. I felt the pull because whenever you have like a program or like a product, I feel like if people are asking a lot of questions and they're questions that they should be getting from like the thing, to me, it's like it's not clear. Like, or it's not the same. And so we were sort of in this scenario of like, it's good, but I think that I could make it better. But also my calendar, so we were getting to the point where a lot of things were requiring my time. And we were getting to the point where if I wanted to scale more, I didn't necessarily have the time to give. So the way that we structured our programs had to change a little bit. And so I actually took, well, my favorite thing to do is over the holiday break or any holiday break, but I usually do it over Christmas. I like completely shut down and I just like I want to say brainstorm, but I don't give myself any tasks to do. Like if I want to update like a web page, I'll go update it. If I get an idea of like something I want to write down, like I'll let myself go write it down. And so I try at least once a year to give myself this like white space of like let's go through and just see what comes up, but also, I have a very tactical plan where every quarter we go through and ask ourselves like super specific questions of like, okay, what's working? What's not working? My favorite question is where do you feel stressed? Because typically, where you feel stressed is where you need the most attention. And it's probably where you don't want to give yourself the attention. I ask my team those. And then we also go through our numbers. And so, I look at our numbers and are like, okay, like email's doing really great or YouTube's doing really great, but maybe the podcast didn't get as many downloads. Like what? So I try to like use that data and then that helps me decide what the next step should be.
That's great. Yeah. So data driven decisions are, I think, a good business practice in general. But also sitting down and having those conversations with the people in your team and giving yourself time to ideate and to be the visionary, which is basically what you're doing on those, holiday white space, exercise that you just mentioned. So that's amazing. How big is your team now?
Yeah, that's a great question too. Okay, so it's me. I have a VA who's also a community director. She's been with me since 2020. Like, I feel like we're family at this point. So that I love. I have a copywriter. I have a team that does our podcast. That was actually the first hire that I made was our podcasting team because editing and me do not get along. Like, it's just not a task that I like doing. And then we just hired I don't even know what I would call it. It's more of like a COO. So this was like a really big move for me, and that is I she's basically me. Like her expertise are my expertise. And my goal was I wanted somebody that could not take my place, but if something happened, like they would be able to fill in for a minute. But also my inbox was getting out of control and I'm the one that answers everything. Like I answer all the DMs, all the emails, and so I wanted somebody that I could trust to, like, filter through my emails, and I'm still like, I get nervous talking about it, like, we're at the beginning stages of, like she's just filtering through it of, like, okay, if it's a question of, like, where to find something, like, she could answer it, right? Or if it's something else, then you could answer it. So, that was, like, a really big move, and then my husband does all of our finances, taxes, and then we actually have a planner, which is behind me, and he handles all of that because it's a product is very different. And then he does, like, password resets and billing and things like that. So it's like a baby team, but everyone has, like, a very specific responsibility.
No, I think that's a great size team. And I think it's you gave us some examples there of like delegating tasks, but you're also in a new phase now in your business where you're starting to delegate strategy. And that is like a huge evolution you might not even realize.
I was so nervous, like, and she knows it too, and I was just like, "Okay." I knew in my gut it was the right step, though, I just knew it because I needed somebody to bounce ideas off of, but I also wanted, like, a second set of eyes, and I don't think I could scale the way that we wanna scale doing it myself. Like, I
Correct.
needed
Yeah, I mean, that's
number 2.
amazing, and good for you for doing that. That's definitely the natural evolution of just delegation in general is, going from that delegation of tasks to starting to delegate strategy so you can, again, sit into the CEO seat and just, do things from there, and that's a great step to take, so congratulations on that.
Yeah, like, we're in the baby phase, so you can have me back, and I'll tell you how it works out.
Oh, I'm sure you're gonna do great. I'm excited for you. So, talk to us a little bit about how do you pull the strengths of your clients? So, you talk about building a business around your strengths, especially when people are finding themselves, stuck doing all the things. So, how do you help them kind of identify where to go?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a little bit on when you were on our podcast, and that is, I think you have to look at like what lights you up because there are times when you're gonna have to do things at like a weird time or it doesn't fit your schedule. I mean, we try really hard for that not to happen, but like it happens. And so to me, a strength is like what are you so excited about that you like can't sleep and you have to like over Christmas break you're like writing all the things down like you're so like what is that thing and like how do we bring that to life because a lot of times I think people will say well Sally is doing this course so I should do it too and our program anti-social school I think is like a really great example of that of like I'm so passionate about teaching it because and I use social media like it's not social but there's so many different ways that you can make sales and business that have nothing to do with social media. And like I could talk about it for hours. And so to me, it's like, what are like a handful of things that like you just love? Like you could talk about nonstop and like that's your strength. And then how do we take that and make it into something that you're excited to implement, but also fits your schedule so you're not getting burnt out and you keep that excitement going?
I want to do some myth crushing. So, tell me about what is the one piece of just conventional business advice that you think is doing more harm than good, and what would you say instead?
I think it comes down to like more work does not equal more success. And I grew up with that. Like, you go to school, you go to college, you go to grad school, you get a job. I mean, I was like, my whole goal was like, I need an office with a door and a window. Like, then I've made it, right? Like, and I got it. And I was like, this is not what I wanted. Like, this is not good. So I think like more work does not equal more success, but also, and I don't know if it's like a myth, but like you can create your own path. And I think it's more common now to create your own path. It's definitely evolved, but it doesn't have to be what everyone else does.
Beautiful. Holly, do you have a favorite book to share with us?
We were talking about delegation and, outsourcing has definitely been, I ran a lot of high powered teams in my corporate world. And so I try to pull my experience from that when I have our own like little team. And Who Not How is one of my favorite books. And it basically talks about that the most successful anyone is like who they surround themselves by. I've read it multiple times. It is about delegation, but it also just helps you realize like how important it is to have the right people on your team and what that looks like.
It's awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending time sharing all this knowledge with us, all the strategies, but also some of your, personal life. We appreciate you. Where can people find you to learn more and, work with you?
Yeah, so you can go to hollymaryhaynes.com and we have all of our assets there. We have a free workshop where you can learn to grow and scale without social media. And then the podcast, Crush the Rush, Nat is on there. And it's just a really fun little community we have set up over there.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Holly. And I'm looking forward to, hanging out more now that we finally
I know,
connected.
I love it. I can't wait. Thank you.
Bye. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us in the world where creativity and business strategy collide. I am Nada Salvatore, thrilled to have shared this time with you. Remember, every episode is a step closer to mastering the art of being an accidental CEO. So don't miss out. Hit subscribe, drop us a sweet review, and spread the word to your creative tribe. Your next big breakthrough could be just one episode away. Join us next time for more insights, laughs, and actionable tips. Keep pushing boundaries, dreaming big, and embracing the beautiful chaos of entrepreneurship. Here's to make magic happen in your business and beyond.